Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our new edition of the webinar on the latest news and updates in the Dynamics 365 world, which, as usual, our experts, William and Chris, will update you in the best possible way. So you also know that you can include your questions in the top left box, and you will be answered. It will be answered when they have the possibility. So, William, please, it's all yours.
Yep, thanks, Ruben. Welcome everybody to the Dynamics 365 update webcast for the month of April. As you know, my name is Wim van Voorthuijsen. I'm the PTS at Companion. Most of you will know me. If you have any questions, here are my contact details to reach out. Today we have two topics. First, I will dive into the specific news around Business Central, which is more or less only covering the highlights of the digital launch event of Business Central. And then I would like to hand it over to Chris with some more news around the Dynamics 365 family in general, and also regarding the Power Platform. So let's start with the Business Central launch event. I would like to cover the highlights. Maybe you know that the Keynote was live. Next to that, there are around 20 plus sessions available on demand, but we will go through them later on. Some highlights from the Keynote. First of all, good to know that they heavily placed the bet on also include information around the Power Platform in the central Keynote, with now having the Power Platform connector available for GA, so general availability, which is great news. So no more in preview, it's actually in GA available now. And of course, they draw some attention to the momentum we are currently in within the Business Central channel, with the growth in partners, the growth in solutions on AppSource, and specifically the growth on customers year over year, now more than 60%. And they are not sharing any specific number of customers anymore, which is typically the case across the Microsoft business line, so to say, that if it becomes serious, they are not sharing every detail anymore. Another slide I highlight from the Keynote is the think outside the ERP box, right? With Business Central, you are now out competing with the only full integrated stack in the world, on the most secure cloud. And as you see, it basically consists of different layers. Of course, identity, security, etc. within the Microsoft Azure layer, the Microsoft Cloud, and on top of that, you have the developer tools, the Power Platform, of course, Microsoft 365, and Business Central. And that's also how you should present Business Central or your solution to your potential new customers. Not only focus on Business Central's, the features of Business Central and the apps available on top of Business Central, but please show them the possibilities which are possible by making use of the whole stack. And of course, Microsoft is very proud about the global availability, which grows year over year, now being available in 91 countries and 20 more on the roadmap. Specifically here in Europe, we have some new additions in Eastern Europe, which is great news, of course. They also spent some time on the integration with Microsoft 365, where we now really able to see realistic scenarios of integration between Office 365 and Business Central. So working together within teams on the data from Business Central, working together on documents or reports stored in OneDrive related to Business Central. You're now able to respond directly from Outlook to on emails of customers, which are of course also available in Business Central. Sharing emails from Business Central, including additional attachments, all those kind of minor details which make it more and more sophisticated. And a very nice addition is the enhanced integration with Microsoft Excel, where you're now able to not only statically dump and export of data of Business Central to Excel. Now you're now able to have a dynamic connection for those working with CRM or Dynamics 365 Sales in the past. You may be familiar with it. You can basically have a live connection between a table in Business Central and your Excel report, where you can create your pivots, etc. And you can simply, with one click of a button, update the data used in those reports. Another important point mentioned also in the central keynote is the granular delegated admin privileges, also very related to security, hot topic, we all know, and I will come back to this specific one in more detail later on. Like I said, those were the highlights of the central keynote, which was a live webinar, but next to that there are 20 plus sessions available on demand for you to watch, and I would heavily suggest to go through those lists, and maybe not all of them, but at least focus on the important ones, which are, in my opinion, the sessions regarding onboarding, where Microsoft is pushing heavily on. Of course, the integration with Power Platform and the granular delegated admin privilege. And we will dive into more detail once it's up. So first of all, onboarding. Sharon Alexanderson, being the principal program manager, very enthusiastic about onboarding. And of course, it's good to know that it's from a Microsoft perspective, it's their vision. And maybe they are a little bit too optimistic. If you talk about customers being able to deploy themselves on Business Central, implementing themselves, etc. We all know that that's maybe a far from the bed show, but at least Microsoft is focusing on giving the partners the right toolboxes to make it as easy as possible, as touchless as possible, for customers to onboard to Business Central, making use of wizards, etc. And in the vision of Microsoft, like I said, it's the vision of Microsoft, customers should be able to find, explore, and start using Business Central plus the additional apps themselves. So customers can discover and explore the product, finalize the setup, and the partner knowledge is delivered through apps and the documentation within those apps, so users can basically start using the product and learn from that. And like I said, maybe a bit too optimistic, but at least Microsoft's giving the right tools for that. Because Microsoft understands that scale is key. If you're serving the lower end of SMB with Business Central, you don't have the budgets to do a from scratch implementation over and over again. And that's, of course, a message we all heard from the last few years. The opportunity is there, but you need to scale. And to scale, you basically need to either automate as much as possible or let the customers do a lot of self-servicing. Because in the ideal world, how Microsoft sees it is that customers are not going through trial.dynamics.com and deploy a trial version of Business Central over there. No, in the ideal world, potential new customers are searching for an ERP solution in a specific vertical. They found your website because you are into manufacturing or whatever, and your solution is based on Business Central. They go to your website and they ask there for a demo. And then it's the toolbox comes in place, because Microsoft gives you as a partner the possibility to deploy a cloud tenant for those new customers via an API. You can even let the customer choose or choose for yourself the choice of apps and config packages which are already preloaded in that new deploy tenant, also available via API. And then the customer can simply sign in, complete some more checklists. For example, a very typical easy example is if you're having a solution in the shoe retail business, for example, customers download the version of BC with your app on top. And one of the very obvious, simple questions which could land up into a wizard, for example, is: are you making use of USA or EU shoe sizes? And once the customer makes his choice, then based on the answer, an additional config packages will be loaded with only that data which is relevant for that customer. The employees can then sign in, so the colleagues of that customer admin, and they get welcomed in a Business Central tenant which is preloaded and the customer is live. Like I said, a bit optimistic, but at least Microsoft is delivering you the tools to make it as much as possible, as easy as possible for customers to get started with it. So the summary of that session is use templates. Very obvious, so you're able to automate things and provide defaults to the new customers. Make use of the checklist to focus on self-serve completion, where the customers can basically finish the configurations themselves. Use the assisted setup guides for just-in-time setup, the example of the shoe size I just mentioned. And you as a partner or an ISV need to bring your IP, your knowledge as an app to the customers, because now with delivering an app, you can also deliver tool tips, tool guides, etc., to get familiar with your solution. And of course, next to that, you can now also make use of the contextual helping available in Business Central, not only containing the Microsoft help, but also your help for your solution. And that should be the magic combination, the toolbox to accelerate growth and use the best talent more efficiently. I highly recommend to join those 1 or 2 sessions around onboarding, and I will share the link later with you. Another very important session I would suggest to dive into is the What's New in Power Platform session, where Andre Panko, the Principal Program Manager of Microsoft, showed some stuff which is now possible with Power Platform with regards to the collaboration with Business Central. Just as a refresher, they start, okay, what do we offer now with the Power Platform? Because Power Platform consists of multiple products in the stack, where we have Power BI for the data analysts. We have Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents for the citizen developers. So where your people can develop their own solutions based on the Power App or automate things with Power Automate. And we have Dataverse for the Dataverse integrators to integrate everything with Business Central. A little bit more in detail are the specific connectors. So for Power BI, there is a Power BI connector with the data sets to extract all the typical data from Business Central to Power BI. We now have the connector with the Power Platform, so Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents. Like I said, going out of preview, now general available. And we have a specific Virtual Tables connector for the connection through Dataverse. Sorry. And a new addition over there is that with Dataverse, there's now the support for data change events in combination with Power Automate. Power Automate, launched a few months ago, to be honest already, is the possibility to allow to find and retrieve records through Power Automate within Business Centrals, and that opens up additional scenarios like making use of a chatbot, ask questions via the chatbot, and you will get the answers from Business Central back, like what's the open balance for customer X, or how many items do we have in stock of this item type, etc. And that's now all possible based on the fact that we can find and retrieve records through Power Automate. We have the default connector, like I said, now general available. A lot of improvements in all the templates which are by default available. For example, very obvious one, if you're working with purchase orders, maybe you would like to have a process of approval to request an approval for a specific purchase order. There's now a specific template available right out of the box. And of course, they enhance documentation, samples, etc. And like I said already, being general available this month. There are some new things to automate So automate your actions with Power Automate. Of course, you can run the workflows of your choice from Business Central, and it's good to know that in the past we were used to make use of the workflows available in Business Central or in Dynamics NAV. But we see the trend that more and more workflows will switch from the typical Business Central workflows to being replaced by a Power Automate workflow. You can automate tasks done in a sequence, of course, and with that you can Power Platform. Let Power Platform do the boring job for you. Of course, you can use and reuse the templates and samples of Microsoft for every occasion. So grab them as a start and enhance them. And with that, it's nice that specifically the customer with an internal IT department can build their own flows, and so they have the knowledge in-house because they are able to rely on their own colleagues building those flows. And it gives nice opportunities because very obvious. With Power Automate, you can create beautiful flows in Business Central, which touches, for example, Outlook. If this happened, then send an email too. But it's also very nice to integrate flows through third-party solutions, like, for example, DocuSign, Salesforce, SAP, or whatever. Some announcements to using parameters and filtering in Power Automate. If you are creating a flow, you can choose if that flow should be visible on any page or only on selected pages or on all pages linked to a specific table. And you can use parameters passed to your flow, where you can basically drill down into the very specific. So first you start with an environment name, a company name, a table ID or a system ID, a page ID, etc. So you can be very concrete about the flows on the different parameters. There are some new additional parameters in Power Automate where you can control the names or control the tooltips or input, like text, number, yes or no answer, etc., which gives endless possibilities to start and run off flows from Business Central based on an answer on a question, for example. Then switching gears from Power Platform being Power Automate, Power Apps to Power BI. Important to know, already announced earlier, is that it's now able to refresh the data in a Power BI report from a read-only database, which should be a positive for the performance of your real database of Business Central. It's available since the new Power BI desktop application, which was launched in March, and all new reports created after that date are automatically configured to be read-only, to be refreshed from the read-only database. Reports you already built earlier need to be updated. Then also a very nice addition as a result of the Power BI connector we now have is that with Power BI connector, you basically publish data sets which are available in Power BI to work with, for example, customers. But that Power BI connector creates organization data types, which can also be used in Excel. So for example, with this, if you're starting from scratch with a blank Excel file and you need to have the customers, very obvious example, the customers as a list in Excel, you don't need to go to Business Central or export the customer list or whatever. No, you simply choose to include the organization data type customers in your blank Excel sheet, and right away the data will be popped up straight from Business Central through the Power BI connector. So that's very convenient, a very nice feature, and should also be something which you should demonstrate to your new or existing customers. The Dataverse Virtual Tables, like I said before, they now support for data change events. That's very nice because you're now able to run Power Automate flows where you can say once a record is added, modified or deleted, in the virtual tables section of Dataverse, so where all the tables from Business Central are applicable, are visible. That gives you the freedom to get enhanced Power Automate flows, including change of events. So summary, with the Power Platform, with Power BI, we have of course the rich and performant dashboards and reports. With the core of Power Platform being Power Apps and Power Automate, and also next to that Power Virtual Agents, it's the great tool set for expanding and connecting everything to Business Central. And with Dataverse now, with the support of data change events, it's really nice to work with all the data in Dataverse and reuse them in Power Automate flows. Just the same like I recommended for the session regarding onboarding, I heavily recommend you to watch this session on demand. Then the last session I would like to highlight regarding the delegated administration of Business Central. Like I mentioned before, granular delegated admin privilege, that's basically, it's a security feature that provides partners with the least privileged, granular and time-bound access to the customer's workloads in production and sandbox environment. So basically, you as a partner get the least privileged access to a specific customer tenant to be able to do your work without having the need of an overkill a security role in their tenant, because security is not topic, and we see more and more customers having multiple admins in their tenant from different companies. One of their Business Central partner, maybe they have a different Office 365 partner, and then security becomes a thing. There's a nice procedure on how to get that granular delegated admin stuff active for your customers, because on your partner side you need to configure a group of your users in your partner center, give them the right roles, and then you need basically ask the customer for permission. So you prepare everything on your side, then a standardized email will go out to the customer. They need to approve it, and then you get the granular delegated admin privileges. It's a replacement for the delegated admin privileges we had before. And one of the nice things is that it doesn't require a global admin access anymore, because that was one of the things customers could have a problem with. It's available via the Partner Center API. It's completely traceable, and customers can revoke access at any time. And good to know for you as a partner that with this new granular delegated admin privileges, which is, like I mentioned before, the least privileged granular and maybe even time-bound access, you get the same access and same behavior within Business Central and in the admin center. So you are still able to do everything you need to do as a partner for that customer. That was the session around granular delegated admin privileges. Some miscellaneous stuff to end up with is new update enforcement, because customers will now get in-app, so in Business Central, notifications of non-upgradable apps in their Business Central tenant. So it's good to know for you as a partner in ISV that customers will get a warning up front that a solution they are using from you is not upgradable yet. And you need to be proactive to those customers, either via newsflash or whatever, and let them know that you are working on the upgraded version or whatever. Always be proactive, because you will now know that customers will get notifications if an app is not upgradable. Then some clarification about the basic authentication method, because formally Microsoft announced that it would be removed with this new release. So release version 20, this pre-release of Business Central. That removal has been postponed because they saw very close to this release that more than 3,000 customers are still relying on the basic authentication method, and they thought, okay, that's not going to work out that well if we simply remove it now. So let's give the customers and partners a little bit more time to change it, to switch to OAuth2, for example. So the removal has been postponed to version 21. It is still possible to use basic authentication method on the existing version 20 tenants of Business Central, so your current customers on Business Central, not on new ones, so only on the existing ones. And good to know that the users on Business Central version 20 making use of basic authentication will get warnings that they are making use of an authentication method which will be removed very soon. And that very soon, of course, applies to the full release of Business Central later this year. Then the last thing is good to know, because we see that a lot of customers are asking for it. Partners are getting workarounds to present Business Central in some way or the other in Teams for their end customers. But Microsoft is now working on a default connector of presenting complete pages of Business Central within Microsoft Teams. And with that, I would like to hand it over to Ruben to see if there are any questions, and otherwise we go through to Chris Parks.
Yeah, William, we have one question, but I think that I can answer it in the text box. I think that this has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, okay.
So that's it, and I will pass to Chris.
Yep, I see that I forgot one slide, which I also would like to share with the people. It's soft delete. Soft delete is coming. You're able to restore an environment which you have been deleted for 7 days, because formerly you were able to restore environments up to a certain point in time in the last 30 days, but you were not able to restore an environment which have been deleted, and that will now come. So there's sort of a state of soft delete. If you delete an environment, confirmed it, you still have 7 days to restore it. And with that, let's hand it over to Chris Parks.
One thing, I think that I'm having technical problems with the setting of the webinar. Are you looking at the screen, William?
Yeah, but I see only my screen.
Yeah.
I don't have the view like an attendee.
No. I think that something happened with my Teams, with my app. I don't know. I think that I will have to restart the event because nothing changes in my site.
You're not able to hand it over to Chris?
No, I'm not. My screen is completely in black, so I think that we were having troubles in this point. So let me see if I can restart the meeting, or if the meeting is just going to be over. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm over here, and now it seems that everything is normal, but I think that I had to finish it. So let's see if the attendees can keep on, or in any case, let's continue, because I think that the recording is still on. Okay, sorry about this.
I think we're all good, Ruben.
Yeah, we're all good.
Really excellent. I was really getting worried. I got dressed up for the occasion. I put the Campanule polo shirt on and everything, and I thought we were gonna we were going to miss out on this part of the session. Thanks for getting it back on track. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Chris Parkes, the kind of Williams counterpart at Companion, working on Power Platform and Dynamics 365. This session's normally all about recent news and updates. Given the information that William presented there around the sessions, the kind of the launch, the update event, I'm going to cover a little bit more of Power Platform and how it relates to you all as Business Central partners and what we're thinking at Companion, and just to highlight some of the services that we have that can help. So just a couple of quick news updates before I get into that. Two IDC MarketScape worldwide vendor analysis models been kind of published over the last few months while we've been kind of a little bit silent. One of them was for field service management. I think for those who don't know what field service is, traditionally it's seen as like installation or repair and maintenance work performed on site by employees or contractors, whether that's somebody's home or an office location where there's equipment or a system that needs attention. There's lots of things involved in field service management for effective kind of field service and efficient field service to happen. Obviously, the more resources that a company has in the field, the more difficult it is for them to schedule and optimize sites visits through their engineers. The primary outcomes from field service are always around kind of trying to drive increased customer loyalty. What this report says is that the Microsoft capabilities out of the box address things, all of those things stated previously around resource scheduling and optimization, plus other things, self-service scheduling, real-time status reporting. The reason I'm highlighting this, if you're positioning field service to your customers or thinking about it, or actually maybe you're even delivering field service in a technology support kind of way. I know there's a lot of kind of remote access in the technology field, but there's still often a need for site visits. This short summary document here, it's well worth a read. It also highlights the fact that whilst Microsoft are going to market with industry cloud type scenarios, there's still lots of gaps and lots of space for partners to fill in where they're not so strong in certain verticals. So I wanted to highlight that one to start with. The next one for me is more interesting. It's another IDC MarketScape vendor analysis model. This time it's for customer data platform. If you don't know what a customer data platform is, it's all around creating a single view of customer data. So organizations can make data-driven decisions based on sharing what is essentially one single version of the truth about their customers across their whole organization. That one, I mean, this got me straight away thinking about Business Central being a data source, about Dataverse being a data source, and about other data sources within customers. And when we talk about kind of one single version of the truth or integrations, then this is where I thought it was worth highlighting this. It's then about using that one data platform to enable multiple touch points for customers, whether the customer wants to consume, whether they want to self-serve, if it's via a website, if it's via a customer portal, if it's through other engagement channels, particularly in B2C, where you've got Instagram, Twitter, Facebook type routes out to market. For me, a customer data platform really is best described as an evolution of what was a customer relationship management or CRM platform. So instead of thinking kind of CRM nowadays, I think CDP and customer data platform and then enablement on top of that. This report goes into way more detail around the capabilities specifically of a product called Microsoft Customer Insights. There's a whole host of enterprise level stuff in there using AI analytic capability. It talks about data scientists and removing the need for them for certain users who aren't specialized and the tools that are in there. But the key for it, for me, it's all around the underlying data platform. And when William highlighted those sessions, you know, he looked at he kind of showed a similar slide to this, just with the products laid alongside of each other. For me, Dataverse is something that everything in the future will be kind of built on from a Microsoft perspective. It is their customer data platform. The common data model became the common data service, became the Dataverse. It is their customer data platform because all of their applications inside of Dynamics 365, as we know, with the exception of Business Central, are being built squarely on top of the Dataverse. Business Central being different because there's a need to do the integration. And I think the components that we all need to be aware as kind of partners in the ERP, the Power Platform and the Dynamics 365 space are all around Power Apps, Power Automate and Power BI particularly, and Dataverse. So the origins of the Dataverse or Microsoft's customer data platform stem way back to when they acquired Great Plains, Navision, Exactra in the early 2000s. Project Green was this one single central data source that they were going to use. It took 15 years for the common data model to kind of become reality, and then the common data service and what was Project Green is now the Dataverse, which always brings me humour when I see the logo of Dataverse being the kind of the green data background. So when it comes to integrating Business Central with it, and William mentioned something, he said kind of get outside of the ERP or get outside of the Business Central box, thinking outside of the box. I also think of it as going from Business Central to business applications in a much broader sense, and how there are multiple different ways in which you can integrate the Dataverse with Business Central. Just to highlight kind of a few of those here, you've got the out-of-the-box data synchronization. That's absolutely fantastic because it's driven via the Business Central user interface. It's really simple. You've got native table mappings, but then there's also some downsides to that. It works on a schedule. It's not ad hoc. It's not live. It doesn't handle conflict resolution particularly well. So maybe you need to look at virtual tables instead. There's also some benefits to virtual tables. Now, that is real-time integration. You've got one master, you've got no conflicts, there are more tables available. But then on the downside there, you can't trigger Power Automate flows. And because the data isn't actually put into the Dataverse, you can't use it with Power Apps portals. When we look at the other options around data flows, Power Automate and Azure Logic Apps or connector based, they've all got different pros and cons. Some of them are config only, no code, but then the trade-off there is often performance and it working on a schedule. Some of them are bi-directional, not single directional, low code, no dev, but you've got to write all the logic yourself if you're going to go down the Azure Logic Apps or Power Automate route, and you've got to maintain that. Connector based is great. You can connect to Business Central directly and you can build low code apps for mobiles, but you've also got the out of the box connector limitations. You can create your own connectors, of course, but then you're limited to the Business Central API supported tables and fields. And if you're going to go down the Canvas app route, then there is a lot of complexity when it comes to using the connector based approach. So the things that I wanted to kind of just give you a brief update on are some of the services that we've designed as Companion to help you get started. If you are going to move outside of the Business Central box, or you're going to think outside that and you're going to move towards potentially providing services around Power Platform and around Power Automate, you could make a lot of mistakes at the start. And there's two things that I want to highlight. One is something designed. It's really interesting when I talk to Companion partners and I say to them, so what do you use to run your finance systems internally? And the answer is always very, very clear. It's Business Central or it's NAV in a SaaS environment, or it's we're not quite up to date with where we'd like our customers to be, but it's NAV or it's Business Central. On premises, hosted SaaS, it's always one of those things. Now, when I ask them what they use to manage their kind of sales pipeline and their sales reporting, or what they use to manage their customer service desk and their help desk, or what portal they use to kind of enable their customers to self-serve in that kind of customer data platform environment, the answers that I get back are rarely, we use Dynamics 365 sales, we use Dynamics 365 customer service. You know, Dynamics 365 Field Service is then part of that. You don't often use Power Apps portals to provide that portal. It's always, we kind of use a mixture of Excel and maybe something else, or we've got this point solution that doesn't integrate with the data that we've got in Business Central. So we also did some investigation, and we asked the partners really, why not what was CRM or kind of Dynamics 365 Sales and Dynamics 365 Customer Service? And the feedback was consistent. It was kind of like, we've tried before and we failed, or well, we looked to use it once and somebody had to play around with it, but we never really did anything with it. And I think the key thing and the key blocker to actually using the Dynamics 365 applications, and don't forget, as partners, you've got internal use rights through your Microsoft Partner Network benefits for these products. There's although CE, customer engagement as a SKU, doesn't exist, you do have rights to what were the CE SKUs. That's sales, customer service, field service, Dynamics 365 marketing, all as part of your partner benefits, even at action pack level. If you don't have a competency, you've got those as a benefit. It's only the number of users that change. And the things that were the real blockers tended to be the initial setup and the initial configuration, not the usage of the systems. So it was defining the business units and the hierarchy. It was configuring the security roles and profiles to work with Active Directory. It was all of the things around best practice and how to get started and how to basically get to the start line in order so that you could use the apps in a way that was integrated with Business Central. So we have come up with a service here, and please do talk to your partner success managers or your primary companion contacts if you need more details on these. I will happily have a call with you individually to discuss where you're at and what your needs are. But this is all around getting rid of those kind of technical headaches and getting you over the barrier of having to learn the setup specifically to configure it initially and get it to the point where you can begin. These are kind of 20-hour services. It's 20 hours for the basic setup for either Dynamics 365 Sales or Customer Service. We can then do an accelerator on Sales or Customer Service if you wanted to learn how to use knowledge base articles, queues for customer service cases coming in, or you wanted to set up a sales pipeline, a process in that manner. Or even if you wanted to go a little bit further beyond just configuring Dynamics 365 and integrating it with your Business Central environment, whether that's the SaaS environment, whether you need to use the data gateway to connect to on-premises, to synchronize the accounts and contacts here to enable you to get started. This is what the CRM in a box service is all around. So if you do want more information on that, please do get in touch via your PSM. I'd love to have a conversation with you. The next one is, so that's about the Dynamics 365 core products, and that's about you using them internally and making the most of the benefits that Microsoft provide you with. The next one is more around helping you get started, specifically with the capabilities that exist in Power Platform. We know that Microsoft provides app in a day, and we can also cover off app in a day with you, no problem, but that's just a bunch of technology, and it doesn't really put it into any context that you as partners need for your scenarios and your services. So when I look at some of the common usage scenarios, time and billing, expense management, purchase order approval processes, things that possibly exist outside of the finance function, and how you can create model-driven apps for those. What are the implications with the data synchronization? How do you enable reporting through Power BI? How do you do, what is the best way to do the Dataverse integration, and those 5 options there that I mentioned before, but also what are the best practice to build these apps? How do you configure the publisher? How do you get things right? Again, you could make a lot of mistakes at the start, and trust me, everybody does, even the CRM partners when they first started, unless you go on some kind of in-depth development course for Dynamics CRM for this low code, you can make a lot of mistakes there. So this service is designed to give you the kind of the all-up overview about all of the component technologies in Power Platform by way of workshops, but also at the beginning we will discuss the context in which you are thinking about going to market with Power Platform solutions, whether it's Power Apps, model driven, whether it's Power Automate, what the need is, so that we can actually kind of tailor and flex the delivery of this, and hopefully help you create your first model-driven app or your first Power Automate solution as we go through, maybe both of those things as we go through the learning process with you. I think app in a week is a little bit of a misnomer. It's not 9 o'clock on a Monday until 5 o'clock on a Friday. It's a package of 40 consulting hours designed to be spread over 2 to 3 months, really, or shorter if you really do desire kind of more formal training. But just to help guide you through the process of getting your first Power App, model-driven Canvas, Power Automate, Power BI report created and configured in the right way, so that you understand the best practice, you understand the process, and that you can then redeliver those and create solutions that your customers love and that you can sell to them and go to market. And it's about enablement of that customer data platform. So that's kind of it for me today. That's all that I wanted to cover, Ruben. I will hand back to you to close. I'm really interested if there's any questions that I can handle now. I'd love to listen to those also.
Great, Chris. No questions for your side. So, thank you very much, Chris and Williams, once again for bringing us up to date in the best possible way. And of course, thank you very much to all of you who have been able to dedicate a part of your schedule to attend, and also to the ones that are watching it recorded, since, as you know, this session has been recorded and sent, and we will be sent to all of you who have registered, so you don't miss anything, along with also both presentations of our experts. So thank you all again, and we hope to see you at the next session. Thank you very much.